On today's show, NBA Coach of the Year candidates for this upcoming NBA season. Right now, the favorite, Oklahoma City Thunder's Mark Daigneault. But who's his biggest competition to walk away with the Coach of the Year award? Who are some dark horse picks to be in consideration for the award this upcoming season? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. Look, groceries are already super expensive, so why don't you get a little bit of cash back in your pocket for all that cash that you're shelling out next time you head to the grocery store? Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Just link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get your cash back. It's that simple. Other apps give you points that don't really amount to much, but with Ibotta, you get cash back that you can use to cash out to your bank account, PayPal, or even gift cards. You earn cash back on hundreds of online brands, retailers with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so many more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKED. That's Ibotta, I-B-O-T-T-A, in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKED. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Thunder, Rylan Stiles. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcast and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Thunder. Here for our Fanduel Coach of the Year odds, the favorites going this upcoming NBA season to win the Coach of the Year award. And leading the pack is none other than OKC Thunder's Mark Daigneault, coming in at plus 750 to win the award. Now, we're going to navigate the other names here on this list here in just one moment, but Rylan, first things first, I mean, just right from the jump, what needs to happen this season for the Thunder, for Mark Daigneault to actually win Coach of the Year?
Well, they have to take another win leap, which is going to be hard in and of itself. It was hard to get to the 16-win leap. That doesn't happen very often in the NBA. Now you've got to go on at least I'd say at least a 5-game win increase. That puts you at 45 wins for the season, which is a tough task. I think that a lot of the times with the Thunder, nationally and locally, it can be discussed that, it'll be easy because they have such a great young core and they have these great young pieces, which is true. But sometimes you can look a lot better on the floor and it not translate to wins quite yet for such a young team. So I do think he should be the favorite because the pathway there on paper is very easy, but we all know the game's not played on paper. So he's got to go execute, I'd say at least a 5-win increase. And that would lift them, I think, out of the play-in tournament. And so if they can get into the top 6 seed in the regular season of the Western Conference, I think that he will win Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, right, does OKC's playoff appearance this past season kind of help or hurt Daigneault in the sense of, just as far as expectations are concerned, right, where that bar is at for the Thunder?
Yeah, I think that doing it last year almost hurts in the case of individually winning the Coach of the Year award. I think he would have won it last year had Mike Brown not snapped the Kings playoff record. If that storyline was not on the table, Mark is the Coach of the Year last year. But in terms of expectation level for him specifically as terms of just a general coach, I think that last year was a really good stepping stone for such a young coach to get experience down the stretch coaching meaningful basketball. This is a guy that got promoted straight from the G League, and prior to his G League stint with the Blue, did not have head coach experience necessarily in terms of running a team in general. So from assistant to G League head coach to now NBA head coach, and looks like the guy for the job long term. I think it was great for him individually and great for the team to actually get to that play-in tournament last year.
Now, some of the other names that we have on the FanDuel Coach of the Year odds list, we've got Eric Spoelstra coming in right behind Mark Daigneault at plus 950, Jason Kidd at plus 1200, Joe Mazzulla at plus 1400, and also Frank Vogel plus 1400, kind of rounding out the top 5 names. Now, it doesn't have to be one of those names on that list, Rylan. You could go a little bit further down. You could go elsewhere around the NBA landscape, but who do you kind of picture as the most likely candidate, the most likely threat to Mark Daigneault to take the Coach of the Year award for themselves this upcoming season? Another coach who's kind of in a good position to make a run at that award.
Yeah, I think that Mark is in the best position, obviously, according to the odds, and also just according to logic. I mean, this is an award that is nearly entirely based on narrative and storyline. And so when you factor that in, it's going to be so easy. The Thunder, for as much as they're going to improve, still only have 8 nationally televised games, not including NBA TV. So they're not going to be on TV overly too much for the national casual fans. And so voters who want to kind of flex their muscles of what they've been watching are going to side with the Thunder if they can win, like I said, 5 games, 4 games more than last year, or even better than that. They could go on a Kings-like run and solidify this thing entirely. But I think that any improvement outside of the play-in tournament would lock up the award. And even a play-in tournament appearance could get him the award, given how tough the West is. But I do think that his biggest challenger is in that top ranking that you listed off. It's Jason Kidd to me, because I know that he's already taken the Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals, but we did just say it's a narrative-based award. And what bigger narrative than if the Mavericks have a successful season, which is the only way that he can win Coach of the Year? That would mean that he got Luka and Kyrie on the same page, and he's handling the newfound depth on this team with Steph Curry, with Steph Curry. I wish they had Steph Curry. With Steph Curry and the rest of this roster, if he can get that combination cooking in the West, I think that he can be in line to win that award, because of we look at Kyrie Irving in such a specific way right now as a player that obviously from them to have a good season, he'd be on the same page with Luka and it will all work out after that trade kind of got bashed for the last half year. So I think that he might be the other coach who has the inside edge storyline wise.
Yeah, it is one of those awards, right, where you just, the NBA likes to kind of, especially with these individual awards, like to latch onto those individual stories, those narrative-based kind of, I guess, storylines, that kind of thing. And for Jason Kidd, if he's able to kind of right the ship in Dallas, so to speak, then I guess that does give him a little bit more room to operate, because you have the Mavericks missing the playoffs this last go around. If he can bring them back and bring them back in a strong way, if they could finish, top 4, even maybe top 6 in the West, might be enough to generate, some buzz behind him to give him enough of a push to be in that final bracket, one of the finalists at least for the award, if not walking home with it himself, if Mark Daigneault does not take it for the Thunder. Who do you think could be an interesting dark horse candidate for this award, though? Somebody further down that list. My eyes and my bias points me a little bit to Ime Udoka at plus 1,900 to win the award. And again, it's kind of one of those things where Ime has so much room to work with because of how bad the Rockets have been for so long that, if he takes the Rockets and if somehow they make a jump where they're like even flirting with the play-in, or if they make the play-in and then they maybe even make a playoff spot for some reason, then that could be enough juice to be like, okay, well, hey, the Rockets have been the laughingstock of the NBA for the last 3 years. Let's give the award to the guy who actually got them back to the playoffs. And still, to that point, hasn't missed the playoffs in his career. That's been Ime's. He's been very vocal about that for the Rockets. Who to you stands out as a dark horse candidate to come out this next season and win the award, or at least be a finalist for the award, Rylan?
Yeah, so I'd have 2 dark horses. Co-dark horses would be either who you had as your number 1 or Jamal Mosley. I think that one of those 2 teams, either the Rockets or the Magic, are going to take a Thunder-like jump. And it's not necessarily that they're going to take a huge jump individually alone. It'll be a mixture of them taking a jump individually, and also as we get down the stretch of the season, as we saw last year, these more veteran-laden teams are not going to care about fighting for that last play-in tournament the same way Houston will, the same way Orlando will. So like last year, the Thunder saw the Mavericks punt on the last week of the season, to where that became a much less stressful week on a young team, whenever they didn't even have to win to get in necessarily, because the Mavericks kept on losing. So I think that you're going to see either Houston or Orlando make a big enough win increase where if any team shuts it down that we think right now are contenders, and we get to the end of the season and they're no longer contenders and they shut it down, they're going to be in prime position to take that play-in tournament jump, to where they will kind of leapfrog Mark. They'll be the latest and greatest story, and it'll be sort of like voters saying, hey, we gave Mark his credit last year as runner-up. These guys are the new kids on the block. And that goes back to the original question of, I think that the only thing that was wrong with last year's season was that Mark didn't win Coach of the Year, because it sets him back in that race. If there's going to be a new leap from somebody, they now jump him in the pecking order to win that individual award. But that's the only thing that really happened bad last year for the Thunder, is that he individually now will have to fight a little bit harder for that award, because his storyline did play out to get him runner-up and Coach of the Year.
Will Mark Daigneault ultimately win Coach of the Year for the OKC Thunder? What will the Thunder look like next season? How big of a jump will they need to take for him to be in the running for the award again? You're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Thunder. Rylan, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Thanks, Jackson.